we really need to talk about Fiona Thyme and the absurd potential that her semblance has. Like, honestly, even at its lowest point, this semblance is probably one of the most versatile and potentially broken things that we have seen in the entire RWBY series so far. Like, at its base, does it absorb inorganic material only, like metals, plastics, things like that? Or could it absorb organic material, plants, animals, people? How exactly does it interact with aura? Probably a person's aura has to be broken before Fiona can lay her hands on someone and absorb them. But, you know, if that's possible, essentially the battle is over the second Fiona can grab you after your aura is broken. So, yeah, you know, pretty broken even at its base level. But let's just assume it can only absorb inorganic material. The potential that this has is nuts. When she put her hand on that truck, she absorbed the truck and everything in contact with it. You know, the supplies and everything, but didn't touch the ground. So she has pretty good control over what is absorbed. Not to mention, the truck weighed, what do you guys think? Like 2 tons, give or take, probably? You know, the thing was pretty solid metal, armored, military vehicle, probably at least 2 tons, and then pretty sure that's being conservative. She absorbed that and was just like, okay, time to go, and was able to move on, probably didn't weigh a single ounce more than what she had before she absorbed the truck. So the fact that her mass doesn't increase even though she's absorbing literally tons worth of material is stupidly broken. Just at its base, she can absorb 2 tons from the truck, the supplies, whatever. Hop on a ship and get transported across a city. It may only take an hour. We don't know how long she can store things in her aura, which raises another question. If things are stored in her aura, you know, does that actually consume aura while it's stored in there? Probably, but not that much, I would imagine. She activated her semblance and her aura to absorb the truck in the first place, but then her aura wasn't glowing anymore, so she probably wasn't using that much of it to keep things stored. So she could probably store it for like an hour, 2 hours. I'd be interested to know the limitations of it. But back to the previous analogy, absorbs 2 tons worth of things, hops on a ship, gets flown across the city or however far her limits can take her, and plops it back out there. The amount of dust that was used to transport that material is all of a sudden reduced like so much. Probably easily more than like 1/10 of the amount that was used before. The efficiency of that is crazy because the ship would only have to support the weight of Fiona, not the 2 tons of the material that she's actually carrying. That in and of itself is completely stupid. Then there's also the question of, you know, how much control does she have of it? Could she put her hand to the ground and absorb a giant sphere of material from the ground? If she could essentially become the best dust miner in existence in all of Atlas. Because she could just touch her hand to the ground, absorb as much material as she could, walk a couple steps over, spit it out to the side, and just walk down the hole and continue digging a mine and get essentially an entire mine dug in a full day, especially if her aura can last. You know, if she had Jean helping her boost her aura, you know, the potential of her semblance is insane, which begs yet another question. How much can she actually store within her aura? Like, is it limited to 1 truck, half a dozen trucks, a full fleet? Could she store a building? People in the comments below my Volume 7, Episode 7 review were saying that, well, if Jean boosted her semblance, she could store the entirety of Atlas. It's a little bit much, but maybe all of Amity Coliseum? I don't know. Like, the potential of her semblance is nuts. Then there's also the fact of how things are stored within her semblance. The molecular deconstruction aspect of it. When she put her hand to that truck, it turned into a powder and then was absorbed into her aura. So if she can molecularly deconstruct things, that raises some other questions, like how much control does she have over that? Could she choose a certain type of molecule and absorb it? Could she like only absorb the metal or the plastic or things like that? If she can only absorb inorganic material, could, once someone's aura is broken, could she walk up to them, put her hands on them, and absorb, for example, all the iron in their body, all the calcium, all the potassium, the free-floating ions that aren't organic? Because if she could do that and just absorb all of those minerals from a person's body, they would just be dead instantly. Iron carries the oxygen within their body. If all of it's just all of a sudden taken out, they would be dead. The calcium in their bones would be gone. Like the potassium that's free-floating throughout their body as well. These are essential things that Fiona, even if it's only inorganic material, if she has that much control, could do. It is possible. But back to the molecular deconstruction aspect. If she has that much control, and if she can just absorb a person on its own, when they're molecularly deconstructed, how exactly does that change within her semblance, within the essentially pocket dimension that is created within Fiona's aura, which is nuts to think about, that her semblance essentially creates a pocket dimension in and of itself and can store things within her aura. Just, it's absurd when you actually start thinking about it. But if something is broken down to its molecular components within her aura, does she have the potential to manipulate that in any way? When she's spitting things back out, do they come out exactly in the same form that they were stored in? Or could she potentially separate it out into its different parts, into its different molecular parts? Like when she's absorbing the different trucks. You know, that day, that was the second truck that was hit. So they're taking at least 2 trucks a day, probably on average. So this is all to repair the wall at Mantle, to help the people of Mantle. I'd imagine that only so many trucks would be that useful. Sure, they could distribute them out to the people, but I don't really know how useful a full dozen trucks would be. The first couple, yeah, to transport supplies and everything, sure. But after you get to like 12 or more, you know, it starts to become a bit redundant. The trucks themselves wouldn't be that useful, but the materials from them would be. So could they use Fiona's semblance to break it down into the different components? Like, she could absorb it all, spit it back out, and just have a pile of metal, a pile of plastic, and a pile of other components. Like, how exactly does that work? There's so much that we need to know about Fiona's semblance. Like, it's nuts. And if it can absorb organic material, then, well, Ozpin wanted to know how exactly you can defeat Salem. Well, there's an easy question. Just send in Sheep Force 1 with a little Vomit Boy acceleration and, have her put the hand to Salem's castle, absorb the entire Citadel, Salem, and anyone else she can at that time. There you go, battle's won. Sheep Force 1, Fiona Thyme for the victory. Like, really? That could work if she can absorb organic material. Because Salem doesn't have an aura. She's one part Grimm and also part of the old humanity, which I don't think had aura at that time. We don't exactly know, but still, you know, like, the potential of Fiona's semblance is nuts. Now, there are a couple, I guess you could say, drawbacks with this semblance, but they're massively outweighed by the positives that it has. The first is Fiona has to be in physical contact with whatever it is she wants to absorb. As we saw with the truck, she had to have her hand on it. So there's no actual, like, suction itself. She can't just hold out her hand, similar to Moroku's wind tunnel from Inuyasha, or Madara and Obito's Sharingans from Naruto. She can't just hold out her hand and absorb whatever she wants to. She has to seem to be in physical contact, which I guess is a drawback, but the pluses pretty much outweigh that. Then there's also if her aura is broken, and she has something absorbed into that pocket dimension. Does it come flying out afterwards? Like if Tyrion broke Fiona's aura again when she had a truck absorbed, would all of a sudden he just be smacked in the face by a 2-ton truck? I don't know. I have a feeling that if her aura is broken, the things just stay absorbed. Potentially, they might even fizzle into nothing. And if that's the case, then that's more of a plus than anything, because if she could want something to disappear from the world, absorb that, get her aura broken, and it fizzles into nothing. So I don't think that's the case. But, like, there's a lot that we need to know about this semblance. Then, if she's able to absorb organic material, if she was actually able to absorb a person, they would be molecularly deconstructed. Would they actually die? Like, as I mentioned, if organic material is absorbed, does time actually operate normally in that pocket dimension? Or are things kind of kept in limbo? Do they stay the exact same? When she spits them back out, is the person still alive and essentially nothing has changed for them? That they are the exact same age, didn't have to, you know, breathe inside the pocket dimension or anything like that? Because if that's the case, then she won't be able to use that to actually kill anyone. Unless, of course, she can absorb specific materials from the person's body. But it'd still be insanely useful. Like, if she can get a hand on someone, absorb them, then that gives them time to strategize, surround them by an entire army, or, spit them out over top of a cliff or something like that. Still stupidly broken potential. Like, the amount of things that are possible with Fiona's Semblance, or potentially possible, are absolutely insane. If there is one Semblance in this RWBY series that I want to know more about and know how this thing operates, it's Fiona's. By far. This thing is absolutely insane. What do you guys think about Fiona's Semblance? Out of the things that I mentioned, what parts do you think are actually possible? Because I think, a good portion of them actually are. So, let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. If there's anything that I missed, because I'm pretty sure there are, because matter absorption, creating a pocket dimension within one's aura, it's just nuts. So let me know down in the comments what you guys think. I really look forward to hearing your thoughts and discussing with you in the comments below. So make sure to let me know. Thank you so much for watching. If you want more RWBY content, make sure to subscribe. And with that, I'll see you guys in the next video.